All right, so let's see what's on YouTube today. I want to say it's the 7th. Hang on, I'll be right back. All right, it's the 7th. So we're going to see. Oh, looky there. Look who's back together. And they have an annual pass. It's Adam the Woo and Natalie Travels, also known as Daphne.
Jan, hand it over.
Not them, that's the commercial. There we go. Skip ad. Shouldn't do that. They actually get money if you watch the whole ad.
Welcome everyone. Adam the Woo here as a recording of this Tuesday.
Well, they get money anyway. September 7th, coming up. There's the play. And we're about to slate. So Linda's got one shoe in her hand. And how many shoes on her feet?
One.
She's got one shoe on her foot. And then one shoe
In my hand.
in her hand. All right. Welcome to the Please Subscribe show. I'm Cole.
I'm Linda.
And today is September 7th. A wonderful day. Isn't it?
Yes, it's a wonderful day.
What happened on September 7th?
I don't know. Today.
We don't
don't
know.
know yet.
Something happened on
We
September
haven't left the
7th.
house yet.
If you know what happened on September 7th, leave a comment. And also, don't forget to stay tuned at your television and watch us. You like that one?
Yes, I like that one.
And just watch us. Today on September 7th. It is September 7th, and I do want to make a comment about cigarettes, and I don't support them. I try not to show cigarettes. Now, I know they're in the show, okay? I know sometimes you see Linda smoking and stuff. I don't support it, and I'm trying to get her to quit. I think she does like Lucky Strike, but I personally don't even show smoking. I try to just completely censor it 100% because it'll kill you. So don't smoke. It's very, very bad. Once you get emphysema, there's no backing out. You pretty much can die. So Linda got down to just doing the whole one cigarette a day, which I was pretty proud of her. And that's okay. I think one cigarette a day, it's not good. It's certainly not good. That's how much I hate cigarettes. Now I'm gonna tell you a story about cigarettes. All right, let me put you on my steering wheel. There we go. Now I'm gonna say this a little louder because I know that I'm dealing with like some mic problems and I'm in the car. And this really happened. All right, I smoked for 6 years. I smoked mostly Camel Silvers, and then I switched over to American Spirit. And one night, and I was living in Texas, I woke up and I just didn't feel well. There was like cobwebs and all this stuff. Like it just felt, like I just felt like I just didn't feel good. It's like the sound of cobwebs or something, like in my lungs and stuff. So it was like bronchitis or something, okay? And I thought, I'm gonna quit smoking. But it was hard. It was very hard. It was like a one day at a time thing. Well, at that time when I was smoking, this was like 2000 and almost 2012, right before it was like December 2011. I went ahead and moved to Maine, the state of Maine. So I went from Texas, about 3,000 miles or so, around that about 3,000 miles up north, right up into Maine, not too far from Canada. And I moved into like kind of like a cabin. It was like a small house, and I began writing, because I write. I wrote a few plays. I sent it to the local theater. They had a theater there. John Travolta actually went there when he was younger and went on a tour, I think, with Grease before he was real famous. But not that area, but he did perform in Maine. That's the rumor. Regardless, I did this stuff, right? So I was in Maine, drinking a lot of Monster energy drinks and smoking cigarettes and writing like plays and poetry. I was publishing on a poetry site. I had internet. I got satellite internet when I was there in the middle of the woods. And I ended up writing a book eventually called Escape from Maine. And I came back to Texas. But during all this that was going on and stuff, I still wanted to quit smoking. So what I did was I decided to tell other people that I was trying to quit smoking, because I just couldn't kick it on my own. And I had a neighbor. Now, my neighbor was a Vietnam vet, has all these kids and stuff, great guy, really, really religious, real close to, well, religious is a bad word, but he had a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. He found that personal relationship with Jesus Christ in the bunker during war, fighting Vietnam. So he actually turned his life over to Jesus while he was in combat. He's a really nice guy. He used to come over all the time, and I'd jumpstart his car. Well, I did one time, because it gets real cold in Maine. Now, this is wintertime, probably like December. Now, Bert Shavitz, the owner of Burt Bees, lived in this house that I lived next to. And he started Burt Bees in a schoolhouse in Parkman, Maine. The schoolhouse is where this friend of mine, this Vietnam vet guy, lived, that I ended up meeting. It was my neighbor. So it wasn't exactly Bert Shavitz, but it was basically his house. Bert Shavitz actually lived down the road, not too far. He's still a neighbor, but not exactly right next to me, but down the road. In a smaller house, or a pretty small house, where he only had like just a stove. I'm driving right next to Fort Worth right now. To heat the house. He had no running water, no electricity. Bert Shavitz. The other guy, I think he did. It's a little confusing, but basically what I'm trying to say is that we were all basically in the same neighborhood. So I still wanted to quit smoking. So I went over there and I talked to this guy, and he let me in. He kind of ran a somewhat kind of like a church in his home, because we would go over and kind of like read the Bible and have like church inside our home, which I think is cool. My mom would come over and bring food or whatever, or he would make food, and then we'd all read the Bible, and we would play some like worship music and pray, and then head out. Okay. Well, I finally I used to do a lot of jogging, so I jogged when I smoked, believe it or not. And I think one time I came over there, I think it was like maybe night. I used to go over and visit him all the time, the Vietnam vet guy. And I guess I told him, I guess I confessed, I broke down, I said, you know, there's one thing that I wish I could do. He said, what? And I said, well, while I'm doing all this, and you know, I don't know if he knew I was writing. Sorry about the Dutch angle. I said, I want to quit smoking. I know it took me a long time to get to this point, but I wanted to just set the scene for you. He said, well, you're going to have to pray, and you're going to have to turn it over to the Lord, and He'll help you quit smoking. So that moment, or that time, that evening, he prayed with me, and he asked God to allow me to see the darkness that I was in, because smoking is a darkness, and I was able to see it. I was able to see that I was in this darkness. And when I was there, it was a very serious prayer. I could see that I needed to find the light. That I was literally in this darkness. I could see it in a spiritual way. So what I did was I went ahead and that night went back to my cabin, or to my makeshift house cabin, or whatever you want to call it. And I took all my cigarettes and I crumbled them up and flushed them down the toilet. Probably shouldn't have done that because it was like a sort of septic system that wasn't, it didn't go into like a, it's like an old school, just think of cabins that have different septic systems that are not the same as your normal septic system, so you don't want to flush a lot of things down the toilet, but I did it anyway. So I flushed all the cigarettes down the toilet. It flushed. Excuse me. And I said, that's it. I'm done. Now, I wasn't done yet because I didn't flush all of them down the toilet. I left like 2, so, just in case, because I was in the middle of nowhere. Well, I was in the middle of Parkman, Maine. If you ever go to Parkman, Maine, it's right next to Dexter, Maine, where Stephen King grew up. And I thought to myself, well, I got 2 more cigarettes, and I knew they were there. And so what I ended up doing was or maybe I found another pack or something. So I wasn't completely done. I hadn't beat the enemy of cigarettes yet because I had access to more, and it was in my mind. I could always go to the gas station and buy some more anyway if I wanted to, but it was in my mind. So that wasn't enough. Flushing them down the toilet and getting rid of the cigarettes wasn't enough. So what I did was the next morning, in like a spiritual kind of way, I took that other pack of cigarettes and I went to Harlow's Pond. Don't tell anybody this. Actually, you know what? I went to a dumpster and threw that pack of cigarettes away in a dumpster. I remember. I was kind of crazy a little bit. Eventually, I went to Harlow's Pond and I had more cigarettes. I got a hold of some more cigarettes somehow. Found them or whatever. And then I threw the cigarettes in the pond and said like another little prayer. And I kept doing that over and over until finally I had no cravings for cigarettes. Now, that next day, I think I actually felt sick if I thought of a cigarette. And even if I smelled cigarettes, it made me ill. Isn't that interesting? So I wanted to talk a little bit more about quitting cigarettes. And you got to realize going to Maine was a artistically attractive thing to do, especially for a writer. Because Stephen King lived there, and because a few other writers and Stephen King lived there. A lot of writers have passed through Maine, or at least lived there. Because it's kind of like a nature place, you know, you're around beautiful pine trees and mountains and snow, and it's just very, very pretty. It's East Coast, all the way to the East Coast, right where the Atlantic is. So it was an attractive thing to be, I was attracted to these trees and nature, and smoking was just like really wonderful. I think that's why I wanted to quit, because I was enjoying it too much. And my poetry, I wrote poetry and all this stuff, and I was just, man, I really like this. It wasn't hard enough. I needed another battle. So I was there, I was kind of on top of the world, and I think that and prayer helped me take on a challenge. And I finally just said, I don't want this anymore. I don't want this bondage, this darkness in my life anymore. I'm talking about cigarettes. I want to be free of it because it's an obstacle. It costs money. It's something I always have to worry about in the morning time, or at least I got to go down to the gas station. It's going to snow. We're going to get snowed in. What about I don't have enough? I don't like buying cartons. I never like buying cartons. That's like where you have like 20 packs of cigarettes or something, But anyway, and I just kept praying and kept praying. And finally, the smell of cigarettes turned my stomach, and I'd conquered the beast. I still wrote, though. I wrote more than ever. That's actually when I started Escape from Maine. Was pretty much when I quit cigarettes. The idea behind it probably may have started maybe when I was smoking, but I had like maybe 3 or 4 book ideas, a lot of different book ideas. right here by Six Flags right now. There's Hurricane Harbor, and then it's Six Flags over there. But I had like 3 or 4 book ideas. I was gonna do a sci-fi thing, kind of Kurt Vonnegut kind of thing, and just, you know. So the cigarettes were attractive, and it was an artistic kind of thing. But I had to overcome a bigger challenge, which was the addiction of nicotine. And it's very tough for anybody because it's also mechanical, meaning it's a mechanical thing that you do physically. That's the addiction, as well as a physical dependency. Meaning your body is physically dependent on receiving the nicotine. And that's bad. I went the wrong way. I'm not trying to tell you that you're physically dependent on it. What I'm trying to tell you is that cigarettes will kill you. And you have to overcome that enemy so you can live on and tell your story. We're back at Paws Day Camp. As you can see, it's a little day camp for dogs and cats. It's kind of a timeout, you know. I've seen people smoke themselves to death to the point where they're on the actual oxygen and they continue to smoke. My great grandma did that. She smoked herself to death. So while she had her oxygen, then she went over to the bathroom and she'd have her cigarette. When she was done with her cigarette, she'd go back and put herself back on the oxygen. And while she did all this, she had emphysema. Her name was Margaret Mitchell. She died in East Texas in a small little house next to her daughter's house, which was a bigger house. And they had a cabin too. You can do it anywhere. You don't have to go to Maine to quit smoking. But boy, let me tell you, when you go off and you launch yourself off into a world like that, like Maine, for example, and you decide, I'm going to live in Maine. I went there, I had a Maine driver's license. I had an address that was in Maine. I had a P.O. box that was Maine. I was in Maine. I was a Maine resident. I was going to vote for the governor of Maine, you know, or whatever, you know. I was being a Maine community person, like, meaning I was part of the community theater. I worked in a factory, a wood factory, and I'd work all night, and I was losing my hearing because this factory was loud. I mean, I was a Mainer. They do this stuff. They're survivors. And they deal with quitting smoking and stuff. They have a problem with it, and just like any other state. But it may have helped me because I was in a foreign place. I needed to be at my best, and I decided to be at my best. And I haven't gone back to smoking since. So the anniversary of me quitting smoking, I don't know the day. I don't know the day when I quit. But I know the season, which is probably in December, would be coming up. And I think if you look at it, it'd be 2011 of December. And we've just passed 2021. So we're looking at 11 years. I've not relapsed for nicotine in 11 years. I've been 11 years clean from cigarettes. I do not drink. I don't even really do aspirin. Occasionally I'll maybe take a little bit of antihistamine or something because I've got some sinus issues, which I've been taking Mucinex, which I don't really recommend that stuff either, but I usually don't do any type of drug at all. And our show, the Please Subscribe show, is anti-drug. So we don't support any type of drug at all. And also, I have been to the Christian Science Church, and I've worshiped with Christian Science people, and I believe Eddie Baker knew what she was talking about. I think most drugs are wrong. I'm not against you going to the hospital and getting on antibiotics or going to the hospital and taking drugs, but I think that's a darkness. I think it leads to a dark way. And I think you have to buy into sickness. I think the medical field today are a bunch of hypochondriacs, meaning I think that sometimes they jump the gun. Sure, you need this and this and this and this and this. You go to the pharmacy and get this and this and this. And there's a lot of books about this, okay? There's a lot of people have written about this. So I think the medical field is kind of wrong. My sister has been in the medical field for most of her life, so she would probably disagree with me, but I think a lot of it is wrong because they do not practice natural medicine. The medical field, they don't really practice natural medicine. There's Native American cures. There's all different there's a multicultural of cures, of finding ways to get better rather than just finding one westernized way that came from one style of people or one culture of people. There's other ways to get better. The drug sometimes is a cop-out, even aspirin. But I have to admit it's there, and you've got three major resources in the world. You've got real estate, pharmaceutical, and basically like government money or just money. Those are the three big resources in the world. This is going to be like a two-parter vlog and then a delivery vlog. So what I'm trying to say is this, I'm saying that be careful. I'm not saying don't go see your doctor. There are some good doctors out there, but be careful. The doctor that I worked with that helped me for many years, she would pray with me. I don't know if she would ask, but she would pray. And she would say, you know, dear Jesus, please help Cole get better and all this kind of stuff. And I think the prayers work better than the medicine that she gave me, okay? So I think that sometimes doctors can jump the gun and they do a cocktail of medicine and they make a fortune. And so does the pharmaceutical world, okay? It's not their fault because it's accepted. It's perfectly legal. But be careful with the doctor that you choose. And be careful what they do, because sometimes I think they're not always in the light. Sometimes they're in the dark and they don't know exactly what they're always doing. Okay? So be careful. Because I'm weary of the medical field just as much as I'm weary of any other type of field that's out there today, whatever it may be, even show business and stuff. It all goes the same way. Same thing with the actors. Watch out with your directors and stuff. I loved Marlon Brando. I mean, I never met him, but I love Marlon Brando because they called him a director killer. He was his own director. So he'd show up on set, the director would tell him, and he would challenge that director immediately. He'd pull him aside and have a long conversation with him. Did that with Coppola, all kinds of stuff, because he knew the story and they had to work around him. And that's how I feel as an actor you have to be. We're in a new movement. This is a new movement. Vlogging is a new movement. So you are your own actor. And also another thing, actors need to watch out too, because it's gotten bad. You know, Philip Seymour Hoffman died not too long ago, just around the corner out of nowhere. He was a father, our best actor, and he got a hold of some really bad drugs, right? Real bad medicine. And it's still going around today. I think a lot of movies kind of address the issue of corruption. Breaking Bad does. So does Better Call Saul, and there's some other ones that address that issue. They address the issue of the darkness that's out there, of addiction. It deals with addiction. There's different types of addiction. So just be wary as an actor too. And I would suggest as an actor too, if you're an actor that smokes, find a way to get out of that. Now, if you have to play a role, there's always herbal cigarettes that you can try. And what I mean by herbal cigarettes is that they're actually fake cigarettes they make that have like a taste and they look real when you're on stage. I would always mix it up with like nicotine cigarettes, and that's not good to do because then you get hooked again. When this character smokes, what am I going to do? Well, you can try an herbal, which is non-addictive. There's no addictive cigarettes. And listen, people, I don't mean marijuana, okay? They can smell that in the stage. I've seen that happen too. I mean like an herbal cigarette that you can't even really smell. It looks somewhat like a cigarette. So that way you're not addicted to nicotine and you can beat it. I'm getting over this like sinus congestion. That's probably why I'm talking about cigarette smoke. So it's a tough battle, you know, because a lot of people will get these roles. I remember, I'm going to bring it all the way back and then I'll end this story. I know we're at 12 minutes. But a long time ago, when I was about like in 3rd grade, I got introduced to the word actor. It was actually my teacher, Mrs. Richardson. She had a daughter that was an actress, and she was trying to learn how to smoke. So this is a public school called Florence Elementary. So my teacher walks up in front of the class and she's talking and stuff like this. And somehow the conversation starts and she goes, yes, my daughter's trying to learn how to smoke. And the whole class just kind of popped up and everyone got quiet. I guess she was trying to get the class to be quiet. And we all listened, like nobody said anything because we were all kind of talking. And she said, my daughter's trying to learn how to smoke. And we were like, what? This is like after class, you know, like when everyone's kind of noisy. And everyone just kind of turned and looked. It was very strange, like invasion of the body snatchers or something. And she said, yeah, she's an actress. And she's a stage actress. And they're trying to teach her how to smoke, but she uses these fake cigarettes. I guess she was talking about herbal cigarettes. So it looks like she's smoking, but she's not really smoking. I think she went over to her desk and sat down. She looked very serious. I didn't even know what that meant. Not cigarettes, but what's an actress? What? There's people out there that pretend to do things? I think that's when I decided to go that route. It seemed really cool. And then I think I talked to her or asked her or something about it, and they go, actors are people, they dress up like other people, or they pretend like they're other people, and they play a part like in a play, on a stage play. We figured it out. Because then we got introduced to Michael Jackson, like in 4th grade, meaning Thriller came out. One of my teachers dressed up like Michael Jackson, and they did this whole Thriller thing. So we realized what theater was, and we saw our teachers become like these actors for this, like, you know, this it was like a video kind of thing they were making, like a mock video of Thriller. They did it for the school. So it was kind of, we weren't part of it, but we watched it, so we saw it kind of happen. So those things happen as you're getting older, and you know. But anyway, the one thing the actor does do, though, that they do take care of themselves, and they do, you know, they do try to stay healthy. But I just wanted to bring those memories back. Anyway. There they are, right there. See it? That's the daycare for dogs. Day camp, as they say it. I think cats are welcome there too. So it's for cats and dogs. There's 6 Flags at Hurricane Harbor right there. That's how far it is. Right next to Hurricane Harbor. You could probably take your dog or cat here and then go to Hurricane Harbor. Or 6 Flags. I understand being in a hurry, but I mean, come on. You're in that much of a hurry? Q-tip. Let's do the Q-tip as I walk to the car. Well, maybe they fell out of the packet or something.